Hi everyone. Some cases begin quietly, with ordinary people and details that seem easy to ignore, until those details start to feel slightly out of place. This video is made for calm, immersive listening, a chance to relax and ease into an unsettling atmosphere without rushing anywhere. The case began with a thin gray folder at a community mental health clinic that also specialized in sleep disorders. The file listed Evan Carter, age 32, IT systems administrator, no prior psychiatric history, no criminal record, living alone in a standard apartment building on the outskirts of the city. In the attached black and white photo, he looked slightly stubborn and oddly detached. A closely shaved head, very light skin, scattered freckles, full lips, and a calm, mildly tired gaze. His first visit was dated 3 years earlier. Evan did not complain about headaches or insomnia. Instead, he spoke about missing days. He said he would go to bed on a Friday night and wake up by his own sense of time on Saturday morning, only to discover it was already Monday. His phone would be filled with unread messages spanning 2 full days. The clinicians noted this as a possible dissociative episode and recommended keeping a detailed self-observation journal. The second and third visits were accompanied by police incident reports. Evan had been detained late at night in unfamiliar parts of the city without identification, in places he insisted he would never intentionally visit. Industrial districts, warehouse zones, the edge of an old rail bridge. Each time, he repeated the same explanation. He had stepped out briefly, sometimes just to a nearby store, then experienced something like a blink, and suddenly found himself in a completely different neighborhood. During one appointment, a psychiatrist underlined a sentence Evan spoke, drawing 2 lines beneath it. "Sometimes it feels like my body knows more than I do." Evan explained that his muscles reacted to sudden sounds before he consciously registered them. His legs stepped away from platform edges on their own. His hands caught falling objects without deliberate thought. "It's like someone trained me," he added quietly, "and I just don't remember it." After the third episode, the doctor suggested contacting relatives. Evan's mother, a retired woman living in a nearby district, said that on the days he described as missing, he had not visited her or contacted anyone she knew. Neighbors on his floor reported the same thing. His apartment door stayed closed. No lights were seen at night. No footsteps were heard. Inside the apartment, there were no signs of activity, no dirty dishes, no food missing, as if the resident truly had not been there. Mobile carrier records showed that during these gaps, Evan's phone did not connect to any network, as if it had been powered off or removed entirely. Bank statements were silent, no purchases, no cash withdrawals. At the same time, unexpected traces appeared in paperwork. A small fine for jaywalking issued on the other side of the city. A receipt from a transit card vending machine stamped during a night Evan believed he had simply been asleep. To separate possible sleepwalking from imagination, the psychiatrist proposed fitting Evan with a GPS tracking bracelet to log coordinates in real time. Formally, this was framed as part of a medical observation program for patients with complex sleep disturbances. Evan agreed, hoping it would finally show where his life was going when he was not present. The first major episode after the bracelet was installed occurred about a month later. Evan went to bed shortly before midnight. By his perception, he woke normally and went to work the next morning. When the data was reviewed, the map told a different story. At 2 a.m, the device recorded a rapid movement from his residential area toward an exit road out of the city, followed by a long, straight stretch along the highway, and then an erratic path looping through several industrial zones and bridges. Security footage from a gas station captured a man of Evan's height and build walking past the register with fast, confident steps, never glancing around. The resemblance was clear, but there were differences Evan himself had never shown. The skin appeared almost pale under the lights. The face seemed sharper. The eyes were focused and cold. His movements resembled drilled motion, economical and controlled, without unnecessary gestures. Another camera, mounted above a stairwell in an aging apartment block, recorded the same man breaking up a violent altercation in seconds, knocking a knife from one person's hand and subduing another. Analysts later noted the technique: low stance, precise strikes to joints, constant awareness of multiple opponents. Evan had never practiced martial arts or any form of combat training. When Evan was shown the printed images, he stared at them for a long time before speaking. "That's me," he said, "but I don't know how to do that." He insisted he had never worn those clothes, never been in those locations, and remembered none of the actions. The files began to use two separate labels: Evan Carter, baseline state, and unidentified individual visually identical to Carter, demonstrating signs of specialized training. At this point, an independent investigative writer became involved, someone who worked on stories at the intersection of crime and science. He was drawn to the combination of medical records, police reports, and surveillance footage. As he assembled a timeline, patterns began to emerge. On nights Evan believed he had been asleep, the city sometimes saw quiet interventions that left minimal trace. On a bridge, a suicide attempt was stopped when an unknown man pulled a teenager back from the railing and vanished before authorities arrived. In a courtyard, a passerby disarmed a mugger and returned a stolen bag, leaving without giving a name. At a fuel depot, a fire was prevented when someone closed a valve and evacuated workers, then disappeared into the dark. Witnesses described the same person again and again: a shaved head, very light skin, a gaze that seemed to scan the surroundings first, then look at people. Camera footage, when clear enough, pointed back to Evan, yet all incidents aligned with his documented blackouts. In conversations with the writer, Evan admitted that each new account made him more afraid. "If this is me," he said once, "then there's something inside me that doesn't care what happens to me afterward." In his notes, the writer cautiously formed a working idea. Evan's body, at certain moments, appeared to operate under a different script, as if his own consciousness were stepped aside. The turning point came when the writer attempted to request additional data related to the GPS bracelet through an academic contact. Instead of a refusal, he received a link to an internal theoretical report written nearly 2 decades earlier, marked for limited professional circulation. The document discussed speculative models of interaction with alternative temporal regimes. One section referenced the year 2204 as a calculated point in a projected timeline, where a different branch of history was modeled to possess advanced systems for temporal coordination. Among the appendices was a biometric table for what was described as a remote engagement operator. The similarities were unsettling: height, weight, skeletal proportions, palm patterns. Every measurable parameter matched Evan Carter. A note suggested that such an operator would be trained to intervene in lower priority temporal environments through compatible bodies, temporarily assuming motor control while the original consciousness remained unaware. The writer showed Evan only parts of the material, omitting the most abstract language. Evan studied the table silently before asking, "So somewhere, there's another version of me who knows how to use all of this?" The writer had no answer. In his draft notes, he carefully framed it as a hypothesis. During the blackout periods, Evan did not disappear or lose control. His body may have been linked to another life, possibly one in which the year 2204 was not theoretical. That knowledge did not bring relief. The gaps increased. Over the next 6 months, Evan estimated he lost more than 2 months of time. The intervals between episodes shrank from weeks to days, then to hours. Sometimes he would leave home in the evening and return before dawn with missing memories and deep muscular exhaustion, as if from relentless physical exertion. Clinicians conducted simple tests. When exposed to a specific audio pattern, 3 short tones, a pause, then 2 more, Evan tensed involuntarily, as if awaiting instruction, then reacted with irritation, asking why they were provoking him. When the lights in the room were suddenly switched off, he automatically positioned himself against a wall, shielding an imaginary entry point. He did not notice these movements until he was shown the recordings. At one appointment, he said quietly, "It feels like there's a real version of me somewhere else, one who gets things right, and this one is just a draft. If the other decides I'm no longer needed, I'll just be gone." The writer once witnessed something himself on the subway. They were riding together, talking about mundane things. Seconds before a man near the platform edge stumbled, Evan, without breaking his sentence, stepped forward and grabbed the man's jacket, pulling him back just as a train arrived. Evan's face in that moment was still and focused, his eyes cold. Minutes later, he did not remember the action, only noticing a bruise on his wrist. The writer wrote in his diary, "The boundary between the 2 states is eroding. It feels like the operator stays longer, and Evan appears less often." One day, Evan failed to show up for a scheduled meeting. His phone went unanswered. Messages remained unread. A day later, the writer received a call from Evan's mother. Her son had stepped outside in the evening to get some air and never returned. Security cameras showed him leaving the building in his usual clothes, a jacket missing a button, the familiar tired expression. Several blocks away, another camera captured a figure with the same build, but the posture had changed. The stride was straighter. The shoulders were set. The face looked fixed, like someone accustomed to orders. The trail ended at an abandoned factory site. A security camera recorded a group of similarly dressed individuals entering through a service entrance. One of them could be mistaken for Evan if the frame was paused and enlarged. The guard log simply read, "Contract maintenance crew. No questions asked." Months later, the missing person case was formally closed. Official efforts yielded no results. Evan's medical file gained a final line. Observation terminated due to absence of patient. The writer attempted to request further material related to the theoretical project and the year 2204, but received only a brief response stating access was not available. In his last unpublished piece, he wrote that in one branch of reality, a man diagnosed with sleep disturbances vanished. In another, known only through fragments of theoretical work, an operator appeared to stop returning the body to its original state. On a shelf in the writer's apartment sat an unmarked folder. Inside were printouts where the year 2204 appeared as casually as the present day. He did not know whether another Evan existed somewhere, living a complete life shaped by discipline and purpose. What remained clear was that in this timeline, the man had disappeared, and the reason for that disappearance was never given a name.